Hello, everyone. This is Funk McLovin, and I'm here to talk about something that I've been thinking about for a while. I made this slideshow in about an hour, so we're going to see how this goes. This is a video about power scaling in Homestuck. It's going to be thinking about the powers, abilities, and godhood of characters in Homestuck. Now, first of all, because Homestuck is not a piece of media that really thinks about power scaling the same way that a lot of anime does, we're going to do some definitions. What is power scaling? Power scaling places characters of a certain work on a hierarchy of power, usually for fun. You've probably seen this in things like who would win, Goku or Luffy? Who would win, Superman or Goku? Usually it's got to do with Goku. It is trying to compare characters based on what fights they've been in, how much power they have, what they can destroy, etc. So, there are two types of power scaling that I've personally observed. This is not based on anything, this is just my own observation. The first is linear power scaling, which is when characters draw from a singular pool of skills and they can compare with each other on the same level. So, like for Naruto and Dragon Ball, you have martial arts, ninjutsu, and hockey. Now, Naruto is slightly less linear because there are abilities and skills that some characters have that others don't have. But usually, when you compare characters from Naruto, you are comparing them in a linear fashion. This would be a comparison of fighting power. The next type of power scaling is non-linear, which is when different characters have disparate abilities that can still be compared, but they also sometimes cancel each other out. So, for example, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure have stands, which all have unique powers. One Piece has Devil Fruit abilities that are unique to the user, and Hunter x Hunter has Nen. I don't know about Hunter x Hunter. I think it's not Hunter x Hunter either. I'm showing my ass here, but this compares abilities to each other in a non-linear fashion. So you can have characters who are obviously more powerful than each other, but they can outfox each other with tactics, essentially. So in spite of non-linear style of storytelling being more common, linear style of power scaling is used more when analyzing matchups. People tend to compare raw power instead of abilities because it's more fun, I guess. But there are times when a character who has overwhelming power overcomes, a David and Goliath situation where a character with underwhelming power overcomes one with overwhelming power. An example right here is Enel versus Luffy. Enel is probably one of the greatest and most powerful characters in One Piece seen to date. He can destroy whole islands with his electricity, but because Luffy is made of rubber, he can't do shit to him. So keep that in mind as we go, that power scaling doesn't necessarily mean that you are more powerful or less powerful than someone else, even though that's stupid. Why is power scaling still useful if it is an oversimplification? If we're oversimplifying someone's power level, then what is the point of discussing them? Well, for fun. Haha. Don't we love it? We love fun around here, don't we, folks? So, in Homestuck, there are linear and non-linear systems that coexist, and it's actually very difficult to compare linear and non-linear systems. So I came up with my own little system here. So here we have Bec Noir being compared against Rose and Aradia. And like I said before, Aradia and Rose are probably on similar levels, but they're able to hold off Bec Noir in different ways. And I'm going to get more into this in a second. So the first system is the raw strength of a character. This measures how powerful a character's body is, their physical body, their existence. Like how hard is it to kill them? How much power can they lift? Shit like that. So, for instance, Equius on the left can jump about, what is that? 2/3 the height of his house. And Dad Egbert over there, or Dad Crocker rather, can lift a safe over his head. This would indicate very high raw strength, raw power. Another example is the Condess, who is very difficult to kill. She has a very strong and resilient body. So you have kind of 5 classes that I have detailed. First, you have regular people. In other words, just bog standard, ordinary beings, which is class number 1. Class number 2 is superpowered people. In other words, people with some kind of special ability. Class 3 is God tier. Class 4 are green sun entities, which have more power than everyone else because they're fueled by the green sun. And class 5 are the eldritch beings, which are things like the Lord English or the horror terrors. The second system is class aspects, which is a thing on its own. These are classes and aspects that give characters unique powers that compare more like a non-linear power scaling system. So you have the 2 systems here, the power system and the ability system, essentially. Power being your bodily strength, and the magic system of class specs being the second system. And you can put these on a quadrant scale, which is like this. On the left-hand side, you have the abilities. As you go up the scale, you get stronger in terms of your actual powers. And then on the bottom, you have raw power, which is your bodily strength. So the quadrants go like this: weak body, strong powers, strong body, strong powers, weak body, weak powers, and strong body, weak powers. Now, it had to be fucking quadrants. It had to be, didn't it, folks? It wouldn't be a fucking Homestuck video. So let's take a little closer peek at this. Tavros is going to be up in the weak body, strong power category here, because he has the ability to commune with animals, which is a very strong power, or ability rather, but he's not very strong. He is in a wheelchair, in fact, in some of the comic. Then we have Bec Noir, who has a lot of the Green Sun's power, so he's a little bit stronger, but his abilities are basically the maximum they can be, right? So he's very strong. He could beat Tavros in a fight very easily, and I think he would. He would probably see Tavros and just immediately want to kill him. The system is exponential, so the higher you get, the further apart the characters are from each other. And we'll get into that with Equius and Dad here. So Dad is very strong, but he doesn't have any superpowers or abilities. And Equius is very strong, but he doesn't have any superpowers or abilities. And you can see that they're very far apart in terms of their strength, but they both have a lot of power, like more than a normal person. As opposed to Casey and the Wayward Vagabond, who are closer in power to each other than Dad and Equius are, which exemplifies the exponential system. I hope that makes sense. I didn't know how to express that in a linear system like this. So we're going to move on. Then you have extremely powerful entities like the horror terrors, which are in the top right. They have immense power and immense abilities. And then you have Lord English, who is the most powerful character in the entire series. So if you're looking at it from a bottom left to top right, you can say that the weakest character is Casey, and the strongest character on the right is Lord English. Casey was just the example that I thought of because I like Casey. And you can obviously imagine how a fight between Lord English and Casey would go. Lord English would destroy him in seconds. So, you have the classes that I was talking about earlier mapped onto this power system. Class 1 is in that bottom left. Class 2 are people who have not much abilities but can have a great deal of raw power. Class 3 and 4 have more abilities than Class 2, and then Class 5 is the top amount of people who have the greatest abilities. And here are the ones that I talked about before mapped out onto the system. So next I'm going to talk about some characters of note and put them on the scale as I see fit. So first we have John Egbert. On the left is John Egbert after he has gone God tier. and on the right you have John Egbert after he has had his retcon powers. I'm going to put them both in the same raw power category, which represents about the average power. He's on the level with the Wayward Vagabond down there on the bottom left in Class 1, that black dot. But he has a lot more ability-based power, both with his Windy Thing in Class 3, and then in Class 5 he has retcon powers, which change the very fabric of the story. Next we have Jade, who I would say in her regular god tier form, she is probably the most powerful of the kid characters, in other words, all the trolls and the human kids, because she has the power of the green sun. She is probably in Class 5 to begin with, because she is able to move the... she can shrink planets, folks. She can shrink planets, she can move the ship in the picture here across the yellow yard. She has an immense amount of power. I think she's one of the most powerful characters in the entire comic. Next we have Dirk, who in terms of his raw power is on the level of like Jade, because he's very strong and he's got a lot of swordsmanship training, and he's very durable, and he's shown to have a great deal of raw power in terms of like a regular human being. So he doesn't cross into Class 4, but he's like right on the edge of that. He's like at the peak performance of a human. He's right above Dad there on the bottom. And then he is also about the same level as John when he goes God tier, because Dirk has some very powerful God tier abilities. Next we have the Circuits. And this is interesting. They both have the same power with mind reading, but they both express them very differently. Vriska is very powerful because she grew up on Alternia and played Flarp for a long time, but her mind control abilities aren't past probably a god tier power, because she doesn't develop them very much. She's only able to control people who are kind of weak-minded, as opposed to Arania, who can control thousands of people at once. That is a Class 5 ability. She doesn't have very much raw power because she gets fucking bodied by the Condes during game over immediately. But still, that's a pretty powerful ability to be able to control that many people. Like, for instance, to move things with her mind, what she does is she controls Damara, who then uses her psionic abilities to control other things. So mind control is very, very potent in this fiction. Next we have the Condes, who I talked about moments ago. I would put her in Class 4, even though she is not a Green Sun entity. She does have a great deal of powers, most notably her essentially invulnerability of her own body, her ability to control others' lifespans, and a huge amount of power because of the powers that she got through being a troll and having the psionic abilities of other trolls. One of the most powerful non-game characters, probably the most powerful non-game character. She has about as many abilities as like Dirk or John, because Dirk and John are characters who can like move planets and shit. But her raw power, her body, is much more powerful, requiring her to be one of the big bads of the post-game over timeline. Next we have Gamzee, and Gamzee undergoes some change over the course of the story. He's on par with Vriska and Dirk in terms of raw power. His body is about as strong as any other troll. And he doesn't really have many abilities in his base form. But when he goes fake god tier, he still gains some abilities in that he's almost invulnerable. His body becomes able to sustain a great deal of damage. He is not able to be killed easily when Caliborn shoots him repeatedly, and he has a lifespan of presumably thousands and thousands of years because he appears in so many places in the story. So we don't really know why he powered up in that way, but that's kind of fun. Next we have the time players, Aradia and Dave. Now time players, I would say, at their base, they have more power than a breath or heart player like John and Dirk. Because Aradia is able to go toe-to-toe more easily than Rose with Bec Noir. And Dave is shown to, essentially, while they're on Spurb during Act 4 and 5, he is shown to be one of the most powerful of the kid players. Before John ever awakens his windy thing, he's using his time clones to do some very complicated stuff. So he has a very high abilities. He's not quite into Class 5 yet, but he does have a lot of power in that way. Next we have Jake, who I think represents the biggest change in power level in the entire story. Even when he goes God tier, he doesn't really exhibit many abilities, and he's very weak. He's probably on the same page as Tavros here. He's under John, way under Dirk. But then, when he is in his Hope form, no one can fucking touch him. So he has this potential that Aradia manages to unlock using her Sylph powers, which makes him go way, way up. And we don't really see the extent of these powers, so this Class 5 classification might be a little bit, too much. But I just wanted to show that he is the hugest change of any of the characters. And finally, I just have some miscellaneous characters who I wanted to put on there for fun. We have the Imp, the basic Imp before they power up. That's probably like a Class 1 enemy. They don't really have any abilities. Next, we have Shaggy and ICP, Shaggy 2 Dope, and the other guy whose name I always forget, who are the presidents of the United States. Congratulations on winning the election, by the way, to both of them. Then we have Becquerel, who is less powerful than Jade because he is not a god-tiered character, but certainly very, very powerful being in Class 4 with the other Green Sun entities. Then we have Spider-Mom, who is above nothing on the abilities because it's implied she can use mind control. And she has a lot of raw power because she is a fucking spider. And she's huge. And then we have Caliborn in God tier after he beats his session, but before he becomes Lord English, which I would say is probably on the same line as her Imperious Condescension. Now, the conclusion of this, I would say, is that Homestuck and power scaling is something that's kind of fun to think about, and it's fun to map out these characters on various scales. And hopefully, I didn't want to go through every fucking character because that's boring, and more importantly, that doesn't leave you anything to do. If you have any thoughts or comments, or you disagree with me, make sure to put a comment in this video. I treat my comments kind of like a forum. So if you have any ideas or things that, you want to add, or you think there's a character that I didn't include who is important in terms of power scaling, put it in the comments. And I'm going to be reading all the comments of this video because I find them very fascinating. Two pieces of housekeeping that I wanted to get done here is that I have a Blue Sky page, which is right here. Funk McLovin. Just search Funk McLovin on Blue Sky, and you can find me there. And you can see posts like this, which I'm sure everyone is really interested in, quite frankly. And also, HSAU is going to come back during November because people love it, people like it. So in conclusion, I'm right, I'm correct, never contradict me. I am entirely always right, and if you have a comment, then just post it down below, like, comment, subscribe. I don't fucking know. Look at my Patreon. I never know how to end videos. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.